Black people. The trans community is a very marginalized one that makes up a very small portion of the population. But there's an even tinier portion of our demographic of trans people who is even more overlooked and demonized than just the trans experience in general. I am, of course, referring to black trans people. You look up HRT videos, you look at like trans subreddits, you look at the hashtag HRT or MTF or FTM or trans, you're most likely going to be greeted by the smiling face of a white trans person. And this is cool, because like trans people are chill. However, like this does erase the experiences of the people of color who are also trans and who also deserve to be seen. In addition, violence against trans people is very high, specifically trans women, but especially against trans black women, but that is often underreported. Marsha P. Johnson, herself a figurehead of the Stonewall riots, was a black trans woman, and there are many other important black trans women who have existed in our queer history, and yet their names often aren't brought up. In addition, the hypermasculinization of just black women in general, combined with the rampant transvestigation that both cis and trans women undergo, leads to this horrible collaboration of discrimination against specifically colored trans women. The experiences of black trans women and black trans femmes are very overlooked, even in a community that is itself overlooked. In this video, I discussed these topics with 3 black trans femmes: Paloe, Lynn, and this third person who I think wanted to remain anonymous and who were using a picture of this Digimon plushie for. I think that's Digimon. Before we get like too into it, also happy Black History Month. I did film like all of these interviews a year ago, back when my setup was janky and my camera was worse and my mic was not as good. I couldn't quite, the audio in this video is going to be bad. We'll just say that. So, apologies for the assault upon the ears.
Is there like a term for trans people that have started HRT before puberty?
Really lucky fucking kids. In the spirit of us having our eggs crack, early birds.
Mm-hmm. That's actually, that's a good name.
When did you come out? Were you a teenager?
It was very drawn out, me like coming out. Like I came out in like stages.
I feel that.
I'm actually pretty satisfied at like considering myself non-binary. I've always felt like binary gender kind of just doesn't define me.
It'll be 2 years in March 30th, actually.
Wait, how old are you now?
I'm 19.
Holy shit.
How old did you think I was?
I kind of just assume everyone's my age until I'm proven wrong.
When I say I came out in stages, I used to play sports a lot. I was super macho. I used to do like sort of like effeminate things under the guise of masculinity. The way that I would dress, the way that I would style my hair and everything. And then at some point, after I started going to online school and I wasn't in like public school, I was more introspective. When I wasn't always at public school trying to impress other people there. Gosh, it must have been like 2017, 2018.
I came out in 2020.
Did COVID help with that, or was it unrelated?
I think it was COVID. Kind of spending a lot of time alone with your thoughts kind of does do that. The pandemic, and then also kind of it popping up in the past, but then like spending that amount of time alone with yourself.
In what ways did it pop up in the past?
I think during 2019, I had makeup put on me the first time. It was when I was 14. It was for a school play. I was obsessed with the James Charles palette during that time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's all coming together now. Yeah.
My very first girlfriend, one of the things that brought a huge point of attraction between her and I is she would like call me her girlfriend before I was even transitioned. That was like our whole dynamic. Even though things started off like great between her and I, over time, it got really difficult for me to get her attention or anything, or get her to take me seriously. It's part of why I started to transition. I went down this like rabbit hole of like, maybe if I was prettier, she would love me. Maybe if I got a nice job, she would love me. But I gave up. And then in 2021, I started hormones for myself.
March 30th, 2023. It was during my senior play. And it was opening night. About a couple minutes before I went on stage, I had this realization. I was like, oh my God, I'm trans. And the first thing I told was one of my friends. They were really proud and, they smiled and hugged me.
I remember when I was 13, I was on the bus My mom and me were headed to like City Hall, and it was during the winter. So I had on like this really big coat, and I had my hood on, and I had a scarf over my nose. So like the only thing you could really see if you were to look at me was my eyes. And I always used to get told by girls like, "Oh my God, you have like really nice eyelashes," meaning like, yeah, my eyes are like pretty feminine. Like I was 13, I was 5 feet tall. So this guy gets on the bus. So he looks at me and he says, "Excuse me, ma'am," and like the shockwave. At first, I rejected it in my head because I'm like, no, I'm teenage boy. I can't wait to like be 6 feet and grow a beard and just be man. But then like there's another voice in the back of my head that's like, oh wow, that actually feels like really good.
A lot of girls in my high school always wanted to look like them or be treated like them or like be a girlfriend. I felt like I couldn't. Now that I think about it, I had a lot of dysphoria. First, I dabbled into non-binary and gender fluid because I thought I was that first. I thought I was like femboy.
What was it like when you came out?
I cried. It was at night. It was like June 19th. I just stayed up. I couldn't go to sleep. And I was just asking myself over and over again, would you rather want to live the rest of your life as a man and die unhappy knowing you could have done something? Or would you want to live your life happily and then die happy knowing that you did do something? I just kept grappling with that question all night. And then I just cried. I broke down. I was like, I guess all the things I've been thinking over the years, like all the moments that I kind of tried to like shove down throughout my teenage years, like just kind of repress that, it all came up. And I was just like, damn, I am trans.
I didn't start actually starting to transition and build my wardrobe until like I started college earlier that year. And then after that, people started meeting me for the first time as a trans person and as my new identity. And it really felt great. It was before I got like a lot of dysphoria with my natural hair. That's why like I wear braids a lot. I didn't start like really putting so much effort into my transition because my first year of my transition was just like pure dysphoria. I started HRT November of 23. I'm a year and a half in. And now I remember that euphoria that I first got and it was great. I'm like, wow, this started. Now I have to wait for something to happen now.
Do you find more difficulty in navigating your life as a black person or a trans person? Or do you think like the intersectionality of both kind of creates this like different unique
I was
experience?
gonna say, it's all like conjoined in my head. I don't ever think of me being black and me being trans as two separate identities.
Even though black people obviously deal with a lot, being black and trans, that takes it to a whole nother level.
I mostly have negative things to say about it. I gotta say, it's like a 3 out of 10 being black and trans, bro. Like, that shit's tough. It's hell. It really affects your self-image. It can really hurt, like, especially because of how much people already scrutinize, like, black beauty.
It's a thing of like a white woman can go to the gas station with her hair tied back in a bun and it's fine. But if a black woman walks in with a
Like a bonnet or something, like, people are like, oh, she's so ghetto or whatever. Like,
People like say like, oh, you're already black, you're already a minority, so why do you choose to be trans? It's like, no, I didn't choose to be trans. I chose to come out. I chose girlhood at the end of the day. I chose to throw away all the male privilege that I had. That's me.
I've talked about it a lot with friends and family, but a lot of the transphobia I've experienced has come from other Black people. The Black community does have a deep rooted problem with transphobia and homophobia. I'm not sitting here saying that like I have not experienced transphobia from white people. I definitely have, but it's just a lot more of it has come from, my people. And I think that's been like the sort of like the most whiplash part is because, as a black cis man, it was like kind of easy to kind of blend into, the black community because you're not an outlier, right?
I feel like the statistics on a lot of black trans people then dealing with violence, and I think it plays into a lot because there's a lot of stories that go unheard.
You say like specifically being black and trans is a 3 out of 10. What like experiences caused that to like be the case?
anytime that I ever have like a T for T like hookup or like a date, They always ask me to top, bro. I never, nobody, like people just assume that because you're black, you're like dirty or like gross, and it's crazy too, because like a lot of people are like, oh, you're so cute. Oh, like you're so pretty, blah blah blah. But like when it comes to like dating, I don't know. I have to have a lot of self-esteem and carry myself a certain way.
Being black, I like being black, but the racism becomes more subtle because the people that have those intentions and think that in their mind, it's more internalized instead of it being direct. Oh, slur or whatever, and they know it's going to make them look bad, so they do it internalized and subtle.
It's the
And
plausible deniability.
but being trans really takes that to a whole different level. Compared with being black, it comes with a lot of discrimination. It comes with a lot more isolation too.
I guess the positives though are like you also have a very unique identity. Learning to appreciate your own blackness and like learning to find the beauty in it. It makes you very independent and very like strong. I have something that nobody can take away from me. Not even other black people can be like, "Oh, you're not black." Like,
I kind of have this weird theory that some black people associate transness with whiteness because the overall trans experience is looked through from a white lens. So when they see that, they're like, man, that's that white shit. Why you on that? And they tend to forget that there are black trans people. When you're throwing a black trans person under the bus, you are throwing a black person under the bus. You're throwing your own people under the bus.
I'll put it this way. If you're like white, for example, if you hang out with other white people, you don't have to like act like you're white. You just are who you are, and like that is that. And you'll make friends, and they don't really like you don't go through like a verification process of like who you are. But when you're black and you have like black friends at school, if you're not doing certain things, the black demographic in America sometimes is like so transphobic, so homophobic. It really influenced the way that I grew up, just having black friends because I always had to fit in. Otherwise, I was going to be made fun of.
Touching in with what you said about like white people not having to prove that they're white, I feel like if a white trans kid comes out and it's not well received, they still have access to their whiteness. No one's trying to take their whiteness away from them. But if
Yeah.
a black trans person comes out to their black community, their black card could also get revoked. There are
Yeah.
two separate parts of their identity that like are at risk there. Is that correct?
Yeah.
I work at an airport. So this passenger, he got mad at me that he missed his flight. And his girlfriend like said something really transphobic to me. And he wanted to apologize to me. And he was like, we're all one people, like, we're all like family, it's whatever. And I'm like, you say that, but like you you literally just treated me like shit. You have this mindset that we're family, but it's like the moment that you see like, oh shit, I'm not cis, I don't fit into a box. Now it's like, oh fuck you, right? Until told otherwise. Like the Black Lives Matter movement, I love it, but at the same time, like there are problems with when it comes to addressing like black trans lives. Like I think back in 2020, after the George Floyd incident, you had the incident. I forgot her first name, but I know her last name was Dior. And she was in a store or something like that, and she was getting jumped. She was a black trans woman. She was getting jumped by other black people, and this also included black cis men. And the response to her incident wasn't like, "Oh wow, this is an outrage." It was like she was being made fun of, which I think is disgusting. I do agree, Black Lives Matter, of course, but Black lives don't matter until all Black lives matter. You can't just say Black Lives Matter and then when it comes to incidences of like a black trans person or even going beyond that, a black gay person, black non-binary person, getting assaulted or sadly killed, you turn the other cheek. It doesn't work like that. Like if Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. It's not just a select few. To really appreciate something, you have to also address its flaws. You also have to be critical of that because if you're not critical of that, then you're only seeing half the picture. You're not seeing the full picture. I think that's been like the most difficult part for me in terms of being a black trans woman is sort of kind of feeling isolated even within like my own community from a racial aspect, and then further like feeling isolated in the trans community because it's like, damn, I don't really see anybody out there that looks like me. Like you want to see more representation beyond that. It would mean the world to a black trans kid or a black trans woman, black trans man, black non-binary person to see somebody in the spotlight that looks just like them. That means something. That says something. Most of the faces that you'll see like get propped up are lighter skin, and there's not really a lot of representation when it comes for like darker skinned trans women, whether that be black or brown trans women. It's been a problem that's been noted, not even just with the trans community, but like the broader LGBT community too. I'm not sure how we can address that. I mean, obviously, representation does matter. Getting more faces that are, darker skin in terms of trans and just LGBT overall can definitely help.
Yeah, I was talking to the previous person I interviewed today. I was saying it feels like a lot of the hurdles that we come across as like just trans people generally is it's already hard to get a trans person on screen. And then it's already hard enough to get colored people on screen without them being like the sidekick or like the best friend. So then if you try to like get a trans person and a person of color, all of a sudden it's like too much in one person.
It's sad that, this is the world that we live in, but we also kind of have to learn how to juggle it so we can change it.
There's definitely the issue, or like issue, quote unquote, of if I asked any trans person to like name 10 trans people at the new media, probably all of them would be white. Not because like we choose to only watch white trans creators, but I think they're just pushed onto us.
I mean, my entertainment is really just watching YouTube. So, and I follow so much trans creators.
Yeah, Icky,
Well,
Finster, Jamie Dodger,
Yeah,
Samantha
I mean, yeah,
Bucks.
you being one of them. But
Hell yeah.
yeah, a lot of them are white. I don't know. I feel like they're just more centered, and they just get most of the attention, I guess, in the trans and queer community. So I think that has to do with it.
Lots of queer spaces especially are pretty white-leaning, especially online. Do you find that to be the case in like lots of your IRL interactions? Do you think this is an algorithmic thing? Do you feel like you have a hard time being seen and taken seriously, or do you feel like you have a hard time finding people that you can relate to?
I don't think it's something I really noticed until like recently with my transition or like last year. It does kind of feel isolating at some point. Like you said, the like broader trans experience, like the only lens that you really get exposed to is the white lens of transness. It was kind of isolating not really seeing a lot of other black trans people, whether that be in media or even in real life. I didn't really meet any other black trans people until like last year. I won't say that it has led to difficulties to me being accepted, but it has been difficult to like kind of connect with other trans people in a way. My experiences as a black trans woman are very different from the experiences of a white trans woman. Even with the overlap situations, there's like vastly different like scenarios that could happen.
The majority of the trans friends I have IRL are white. At the same time, it's a balance because I find something in common. I take that rather than just, than just a cisgender person that I cannot relate to at all.
The biggest difference I've noticed has been in terms of dating, especially cis men. It seems like cis men are more receptive to dating like white passing trans women versus like black trans women who are darker skinned.
Absolutely. A lot of people find me like relatable. And this is like not to brag, but like a lot of people like stop me at work and they're like, I just love your outfit. I love your style. I love your vibes or whatever. I don't find it hard to relate to people, but I do find it hard to be seen, to be like understood. And I think a lot of it does have to do with blackness. I feel like because I'm black, people see me as more masculine than they would if I were white. Have you heard that from anybody else?
Well, it's not something I've necessarily heard, but like you see it when black kids are subjects of police brutality. They're all of a sudden men, and black girls having a higher rate of being sexually abused and like being seen as grown women. Michelle Obama is probably a cis woman, but like trans investigators are like, oh, she has broad shoulders, she's a man. Do you find that's more common that people clock you simply because you're black?
Yeah, absolutely. 1000% because I'm black.
Just women in color are more likely to get transvestigated. As soon as one person finds like, oh, sees like a masculine feature on a black woman just because big nose. And Michelle Obama is definitely a good example because
God forbid a woman be swole.
like I don't understand.
Me personally, I don't think I pass. Like me personally, I just don't.
Well, you're an idiot.
Like if I saw you in public, for example, I would just use they, she by default. That wouldn't even be like a question. But, you know, because it's me, people are like, oh, you look like Michael Jackson or something. Like they like automatically just assume I'm a guy. And it's like kind of frustrating. I literally have boobs, bro. Like, why did you just say that to me? You just ruined my whole week.
And people are like saying, oh, why are all trans women hyperfeminine? Because it's like during those first stages of your transition, at least for me, I was being pressured to pass so much. I felt like I had to go all in.
I do think that I do get clocked more because of like the hyper masculinization. For example, my voice. You know those trans memes where it's like you think your voice sounds femme, but then you speak into a mic or you speak on camera and then you listen to it back. Like this one time we had a pilot and I did my announcement and then afterwards he said, "Man, I wasn't expecting that voice to come out of you." It is being clocked, but I won't say it's like, oh, she's a man, but like it's more so like those backhanded compliments where it's like they're trying to be nice but like they're not being nice, like they're being like very like rude.
Yeah, I feel that. As someone who speaks like this but looks like this, I feel that.
It's a lot of misogyny, and it tries to put women in such a box. If you don't shave your legs, if you don't shave your body hair, if you don't wear makeup all the time, if you're not like petite and all that, you're suspected to being trans.
And I think that sort of ties into what you said earlier about like people asking trans femmes and trans women, like, oh, why do you perform this like hyper feminine like act? And it's like because if you don't, then
Yes, you'll get clocked, and it's very annoying. That plays on to that because it feels like I'm pressured to in order to not get clocked. Because obviously, as a women can be butches, studs, etc. Trans women can also be that, but a lot of trans women that want to have that gender expression like of butch or studs, they can't in their transition because it would just clock them. And passing is subjective in general.
I literally just watched a video last week about women getting harassed going into the women's restroom because people are like, are you trans? We got like the pussy police now. Like people are fucking stopping cis women from going into cis women restrooms. That's insane.
That ties back to like a Baldwin quote: when white people are being racist, they're not hurting black people, they're also hurting themselves. In the same sense that when a cis person is being transphobic, they're not just hurting trans people, they're also hurting other cis people. They're like making it hard for themselves.
yeah, we're harassing 99% of the population because some people are scared of 1% of people.
Transphobia affects cis people too. If you don't fit the women's stereotype enough, then you'll be subjected as being AMAB or whatever, even though women can have typical masculine features too.
Going back to the like two separate communities, it kind of does feel like black trans people have an issue of like not being black enough to be in the black community and then being too black for the trans community.
Yeah,
What do you think can be done to help foster the black trans community or even just the black queer community?
Just a way that a lot of like basically a straight black community kind of just treats trans people and gay people in general. I feel like we have a lot to work on.
Education, access to education. For example, the Biden administration gave like 2 billion or something to black serving universities. Things like that where people in power like actually make the effort to do something like that because really do benefit minorities in America. That's a interesting topic, like what can be done to sort of foster these communities. You can't just like snap your finger and have people unlearn transphobia, unlearn homophobia, unlearn racism. Access to education is really, and incentives for education are really how you like combat that sort of thing.
I think through the black community to try to educate and get them to understand like the perspective of what it's like to be a black trans person. That just because a black person is trans does not mean all of a sudden they're this different person.
I'll put it this way, right? You never come across like a transphobe that like actually knows what the fuck they're talking about. These are
Yeah.
always people that don't have any basis that they have based their opinions on. There's no scientific grounding to what they say. When you actually research these things, it's not hard to understand. It's not rocket science. I just assume people are dumb when they're transphobic or like homophobic.
Because I think what happens is they learn the foundational, like, basic biology when they're a child. They really subscribe to these beliefs that make up the reality of the world. And then you tell them, like, oh, there are more than three states of matter. Oh, like, imaginary numbers exist. Oh, there are more than two genders. And all of a sudden, they don't know what to do with themselves. It gets a little bit too, you have to think about the world you live in, and like that it's more complex than you want it to be, I think.
Yeah.
And if you force someone to accept that like life isn't simple, they might have to think that morality isn't simple. They might have to realize that they might not be as good of a person as they think they are, simply by virtue of occupying the spiritual and mental space that they occupy. So therefore they have to be good because they are themselves, you know?
That's a whole topic, is science communication. Getting people to not just, understand the information that's conveyed to them, but to understand the importance of how it's conveyed.
I feel like it's more of the households that we come out of that like prevents us from for us to come together.
I think that when a black person sees me, right, if they want to be a dickhead to me, the first thing that they're going to notice is that I'm trans, versus a white person where the first thing they will notice is my skin color before anything else. I still have to deal with racism just like you. I still have to deal with the police just like you, if not to an even more dangerous extent, because it's like I already have one whammy for being black. Now I got a double whammy for being trans on top of that. I'm getting like pushed from both sides.
I think what could help is just us being more like recognized in a way where we can have as much support as our other like white trans siblings, prioritizing a lot of care and trying to restore a lot of what we lost, what we went through in our childhood. For me, I had to do a lot to escape my household.
And I also think that, as black trans women, we can also find like sisterhood with black women, because there's a lot of intersection between the issues in terms of like misogynoir that black women have to face, just like black trans women have to face. I still have to face sexist comments and misogynistic comments from men, while also being told in the same breath that I'm not really a woman, I'm just a man. But then again, do a full 180 and it's like I do something wrong, I'm a bitch.
Mhm.
I think it might be easier to find common hold in that sense.
I grew up in a heavily like Christian Baptist household. Really drove me away from religion a lot.
I guess there's an element of church is one of the few remaining third spaces available to us. And if you're trans or queer, it becomes a much less safe space, and it gives you one less place to connect with others.
Yes, because I always felt like in isolation. I was the only trans. Plus, I was the only queer person in general in my family. Really, it wasn't even in church. It was at home too.
At the end of the day, me being trans does not change my like racial identity. I'm still black at the end of the day. Like nothing is going to take that away. Nothing.
You shouldn't be able to have your black card revoked for being queer.
Like the idea of revoking a black card is it's just dumb, because it's like we know who the enemy is. We know who our real enemy is, and yet you decide to go against your own people. And then it's like, even when you want to revoke the black card, you then have to adopt to stereotypes to see who's really black. It's just counterintuitive to me.
I think it's a tough thing of like, if you're already one minority, the way to get your leg up is to pick on the people who are two minorities.
Almost everything in this country has to go back to like racism and slavery. Like I'm pretty sure it has its roots held in that, sadly. But at the end of the day, it's just really stupid. but I definitely do get where it comes from.
There's a lot of DNA in both the black community and the queer community that revolves around like struggle, like being oppressed and like fighting back, being oppressed, fighting back. Outside of like that struggle, what are like some of the smaller or like just genuinely cool aspects of being black and trans or both that you really love and like would love to espouse?
There's a lot of things I like about my culture. I mean, I love soul food. I love Jamaican food.
There's sort of like a certain camaraderie amongst like black trans people that does exist because like the ultimate trans experience is mainly white. When you do meet another black trans person, it's like, oh shit, they get it, you know? It's like that moment. It's kind of like the Spider-Man meme. It just makes it easier kind of communicating and not feeling alone. That's something that I do like. You have a different perspective on transition and also on how the world kind of operates.
I love some of the attitudes that us black people have.
There's no truth like black truth.
Exactly. Like the typical black auntie or black mom. I kind of just love the certain characteristics we bring to that table. It's unique.
The majority of black people I meet have a stage presence that could rival like any stand-up comedian.
Exactly.
Being black, you can like really appreciate your own beauty sometimes just for the simple fact that it is so difficult to find it sometimes, to like be able to walk past the mirror and be like, I really am coming into my own person. I'm very unique. And something that I'm proud of when it comes to like being trans that I think is so funny is like sometimes when I go out with my friends, like I'm like, dude, I can talk to girls that you would like literally would never be able to speak to.
What gives me hope in society is seeing people stand up and support the trans community and support black trans people. I think that gives me hope because it's like the world is not as black and white as we would like to paint it as. There is a lot of nuance in the world, and there's a lot of nuance with people. To combat the darkness of the world, you also have the lightness of the world. And I definitely do appreciate that lightness. Like, without it, this world would fucking suck.
And is there anything that you wanted to talk about that I didn't touch on? Any questions you were hoping I would ask that I didn't?
I think that a lot of like black creators get overshadowed. I would like to at least do my part to at least stop that. And I feel like we should have like the same kind of opportunity to have a platform.
If you're trans, do not cave into societal expectations of who you have to be. Like, don't, build your interests and your self-esteem, your self-image around acceptance from other people. You will find something extremely beautiful when you treat yourself like a garden. It's kind of like friendship too. Like, you got to treat yourself like a friend. You put good in, you get good out. Take care of yourself.
The advice that I could give is that you never give up. You always keep your head up. I know that sounds pretty cliche, but it is true. The best thing that you can do is be yourself. Be strong, because the world is always going to try to constantly put you in a box, and you just have to always try your best to reject that.
That was it.
Honestly, thanks for having me, Quinn. This was good. You made this feel comfortable and like engaging.
Well, my name is Lynn. This has been a good video that you have just watched. Just please make sure that you subscribe to Quinn's channel. It's a good channel.
I appreciate it. Look into the camera and say it.
It's a good channel. Please support Quinn's channel. It is really good. Trust me. And yeah, I hope you all have a great night or day wherever you are. So,
bye. Thank you for having me on your YouTube channel.
Hell yeah.
You're awesome.
Oh, thanks. You're awesome.
No, you're awesome.
We're gonna kiss on the lips one day. And that about wraps up the video. Thanks for sticking around and, hopefully learning more about the Black trans femme experience. I talked a lot more with all three of these individuals, and you can see the full uncut interviews with each of them on the Patreon if you want to check that out. In the meantime, back to some regular standard videos, and I'm hoping to talk to some people who've transitioned later in life to see what their perspectives on transitioning too late are. If you know anyone, let them reach out to me. I'm Quinn. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and have a lovely day.